is the second part of Chapter 2, Section 1, Introduction to Integers. So again, integers are just numbers on a number line. They're not numbers between, but they're just the numbers on that you actually see here. So they would be, for instance, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're where the little marks are on the number line. And they're opposites as well. And so in last part we talked about opposites. And opposites were numbers that are the same distance from 0 on the number line. So for instance, the opposite of 2 would be negative 2. The only number that doesn't have an opposite is one of these numbers on the number line. We'll see that in the problems that we do today. So let's take a look at our first problem here. It says use a number line to order the integers from least. Least means smallest. So we're going from the smallest to the biggest, or to the greatest number. So let's look at what we've got. Negative 2. Let's go ahead and plot these numbers. Negative 2, put that number there. 3 is this number here. Negative 6, right here. Negative 1 is right in between negative 2 and 0. And then 4. And so when we want to figure out which one's the smallest number, we go to the left side. So the left side always gives us the smaller numbers. And the right side gives us the bigger numbers. And so when we look at this, the smallest number is negative 6. And then we go to negative 2. And then this number here was negative 1. This number was 3. And this number was 4. And that would be the order. So it's the same thing here. So 7. So we plot 7. And looks like we go all the way over here between 6 and 8 is 7. Negative 5. That's between negative 6 and negative 4. Positive 6 is right here. 0 is right there. And negative 7 is between negative 8 and negative 6. So negative 7, that was the smallest one. And then negative 5, 0, 6, and 7. Well, taking a look at this example here, we have negative 6 that we have to plot. We have a positive 8. We've got 0 once more, 4, and a negative 2. So we go ahead and look at the smallest numbers. Again, remember the smaller side's over on the left side. The biggest side, or the bigger side, is to the right. And so we start with negative 6, and then negative 2, 0, 4, and 8. Those are the numbers. Well, the next part talks about absolute value. And absolute value is the distance from the number, so the number inside the absolute value bar. So the distance, that means how far, the distance from the number to 0. So the distance from the number to 0. So if you look at negative 45, what is the distance from negative 45 to 0? That's what they're asking. What is that distance? Well, that distance is 45. So it equals 45. So it doesn't matter that this was a negative 45 or a positive 45. It's just asking for how far is it from negative 45 to 0. And that distance is 45. Same thing here. Here's 38 on the number line. It's way over here. And here's 0. What is the distance? How far is 38 from 0? That's what they're asking. Well, that's 38 spaces, so the number's 38. So it could have been the absolute value negative 38. It would have given us the same answer of 38 spaces. So negative 99, what is the distance? How far is negative 99 to 0 on a number line? Well, it's 99 spaces. See, it's 99 spaces to get to 0. That's what they're asking for. It doesn't matter whether it was negative 99 or positive 99. It'd still be 99 spaces. How far is it from 22 to 0? That's what those bars represent. The distance from 22 to 0 on the number line. Well, the distance is 22 spaces. Same thing over here. The distance from negative 19. Negative 19 to 0 on the number line. How far is it? Well, it's 19 spaces. Over here, we got 375. So we're way over here at 375. And here's 0. How far is it from 375 to 0? Well, it's 375 spaces. And then negative 59. How far is it from negative 59 to 0 on the number line? Well, that's just 59 spaces. Well, the next set of problems asks us to write the opposite. And remember, opposite, it means sign. So they're talking about the opposite sign. So if 1 is positive, then the opposite would be negative. If it's a negative, the opposite would be positive. So here we have the opposite of the absolute value of 6. Well, the absolute value of 6 equals 6. So what is the opposite? Well, that would be negative 6. So that would be our answer. What's the opposite of 10? Well, the opposite of 10 is negative 10. So that would be our answer. Here's that question I posed in the beginning of this lesson. What is the opposite of 0? Well, 0 has no opposite. And so 0 is the opposite of itself. And so 0 is the only number that we don't have an opposite of. It's just 0. And then, how about write the opposite of the absolute value of negative 8? Well, the absolute value is 8. So the opposite would be negative 8. That would be our answer. Well, here's some more word problems. The coldest place on record in the United States was in Alaska in 1971. It was 80 degrees Fahrenheit below 0. How can we write that as an integer? Well, if you look at it, here's 0. Negative, or 80 degrees below 0, be below. Now, which way is this going? Is this going to smaller or bigger numbers? Well, these are smaller numbers down here, so instead of calling this 80, we call it negative 80 because it's below 0. So negative 80 would be our answer. The temperature outside was negative 4. So let's go ahead and draw this. So here's negative 4 at Jared's house, and at negative 8 at Mario's house. So negative 8 down here. Where was the temperature warmer? So which one's warmer? Well, 0 would be up here. And so which one is closer to 0? They're comparing these numbers. Which one is the bigger number? Well, the bigger numbers are going up in this direction. And so the bigger number in this case is the one closer to 0. So this is our bigger number. Negative 4, that's the warmer temperature. So warmer means the bigger number. Bigger number. Well, the small business reported a net loss. What does loss mean? Does loss mean a bigger or smaller number? And so that's what we need to figure out. Of 62,000, well, loss means smaller. And so that means that we're going down. So that's a negative 62,500. And then it reported a profit. What does profit mean? Does that mean you're getting bigger or smaller? So profit means it's going up. It's bigger. And so it's a 34,100 would be our answer there. And so we're supposed to write them as integers, and that's what we did. Last one says, for one day, Lacey recorded the low temperature in 5 U.S. cities. Temperatures were 5, negative 1, negative 3, 2, and 0. We're supposed to order from least, so smallest, to greatest. So the smallest number, well, let's go ahead and look for the smallest number. Smallest one's going to be the one furthest from 0. So look at this one right here, negative 3. And so negative 1 would be the next one. So negative 1. Now we're at 0. And then we go to the next bigger, which would be 2. And then the biggest one is 5. So again, you can think of those on a number line if you need to. We had negative 3 here, and then we had negative 1, and then we had 0, and then we went all the way over to 2, and then we went all the way over to 5. So that was 3, 4, and 5 right there. So those were our numbers from smallest to biggest. Well, those are the problems that you're going to see on tonight's homework. Good luck.